Now we're talking life and death. The most likely reason most of our loved ones will die is heart disease. It's still up to each one of us to make our own decisions as to what to eat and how to live, but we should make these choices consciously, educating ourselves about the predictable consequences of our actions. Atherosclerosis, hardening of the arteries, begins in childhood. By age 10, the arteries of nearly all kids have fatty streaks, the first stage of the disease. Then, plaques start forming in our 20s, get worse in our 30s, and then can start killing us off. In our heart, it's a heart attack. In our brains, it's a stroke. In our limbs, it can mean gangrene. In our aorta, an aneurysm. If there is anyone in this audience over the age of 10 years of age, the question isn't whether or not to eat healthy to prevent heart disease. It's whether or not you want to reverse the heart disease you already have. Ornish and Esselstyn proved you can reverse heart disease with a plant-based diet, but you don't have to wait for your first heart attack to unclog your arteries. We can start reversing our heart disease right now. We can start reversing the heart disease in our kids tonight. How do we do it? According to the editor-in-chief of the American Journal of Cardiology this year, the only risk factor required for these atherosclerotic plaques, our number one killer, is cholesterol. Elevated LDL, so-called bad cholesterol, in our bloodstream. To drop our LDL cholesterol, we need to drop our intake of three things: trans fats, saturated fats, and dietary cholesterol. Trans fats increase our risk of heart disease, sudden death, diabetes, basically only found one place in nature, and that's animal fats. The food industry, however, found a way to synthetically create these toxic fats by hardening vegetable oil in a process called hydrogenation, which rearranges their atoms to make them act more like animal fats. Currently, nearly half of America's trans fat intake comes from animal products. According to the USDA, cheese, milk, yogurt, burgers, chicken fat, turkey meat, bologna, hot dogs contain up to between 1 to 5% trans fats naturally. They also found small amounts of trans fats in non-hydrogenated vegetable oils due to the refining process. Now, is getting a few percent trans fats a problem, though? The most prestigious scientific body in the United States, National Academies of Science, concluded that the only safe intake of trans fats is 0. Because any incremental increase in trans fatty acid intake increases, coronary heart disease risk. Trans fat intake, irrespective of source, hydrogenated junk food or animal fat, may increase cardiovascular disease risk. And because trans fats are unavoidable in ordinary non-vegan diets, getting down to 0 trans fats would require significant changes in the patterns of dietary intake for most Americans. One of the authors of the report, the director of Harvard's cardiovascular epidemiology program, famously explained why, despite this, they didn't recommend a plant-based diet. We can't tell people to stop eating all meat and all dairy products, he said. Well, we could tell people to become vegetarians, he added. If we were truly basing this only on science, we would, but it is a bit extreme. Wouldn't want scientists basing anything on science now, would we? Oh. Avoiding saturated fat means basically avoiding dairy, chicken, cake, and pork. And avoiding cholesterol means avoiding animal products in general, especially eggs. The American Egg Board is a promotional marketing board appointed by the U.S. government whose mission is to increase the demand for egg and egg products on behalf of U.S. egg producers. Now, but because the board is overseen by the federal government, if an egg corporation wants to dip into the $10 million they set aside every year for advertising, they're not allowed to break the law with those funds. What a concept. Now, this leads to quite revealing exchanges between the egg corporations and the USDA on what the egg industry can and cannot say about eggs. Thanks to the Freedom of Information Act, I was able to get my hands on some of those emails. You want to see them? Of course, a lot of what I got looked like this. Please note a number of items about our Salmonella Crisis Support Module. Any questions? Or even better, entire sheets of paper that literally just said this. That was the whole sheet of paper. Our tax dollars hard at work. But check this out. This is some egg company trying to put out a brochure on healthy snacking for kids. But because of existing laws against false and misleading advertising, the head of the USDA's Poultry Research and Promotion Programs reminds them that you can't couch eggs or egg products as being healthy or nutritious. See, the words nutritious and healthy carry certain connotations. You know that food's actually good for you. But because eggs have the amount of cholesterol that they do, not to mention the saturated fat, the words healthy and nutritious are problematic when it comes to eggs. This is the USDA talking. Now, since you can't say eggs are a healthy start to the day, the USDA suggests a satisfying start. Can't call eggs a healthy ingredient, but you can call it a recognizable ingredient. Can't truthfully say eggs are good for you. By law, the egg industry needs to steer clear of words like healthy or nutritious. For food to be labeled healthy under FDA rules, it has to be low in saturated fat. Eggs fail that test, and less than 90 milligrams of cholesterol per serving. Even half an egg fails that. Not only is the industry barred from saying eggs are healthy, they can't even refer to eggs as safe. All references to safety must be removed. Remember, this is the USDA talking. Why? Because more than 100,000 Americans are salmonella poisoned by eggs every year. Instead of safe, you can call eggs fresh, the USDA Marketing Service suggests. But you can't call eggs safe. You cannot say eggs are safe to eat. You can't say they're safe. Can't even mention safety. Can't say they're healthy. All references to healthfulness must be deleted as well. Wait a second. Not only can eggs not be called healthy, they can't even be called safe? Says who? Says the United States Department of Agriculture. I love the Freedom of Information Act.